Hello and welcome. I'm glad you're here. This is Jennifer McGuire. So today I have a bunch of cards and techniques to share with you on how to create colorful layered die cut cards. I am a big fan of layering dies because the results are beautiful and they can be used in many ways. However, layering die sets do have a higher price point, so I'm always looking for ways to get new looks from them so I can use them more often. So I have many techniques to share with you today, and a lot of these can be applied to whatever layering dies you may have. And once again, I have many card examples for you. Now, before I get started, I wanted to share what gave me the idea to do this video. I have a lot of layering die sets, but I actually use them quite a bit. For example, here I have a Birch press layering die set that I've shown in a video before, and here I was mass producing some cards off screen. These are ready to go except to add them to a note card, add some embellishments, and a sentiment. And this is what got me thinking about new ways to use layering dies and sharing those with you. Another thing I wanted to show you about these before we get going on the techniques is how impactful it is to layer up your die cuts. So take a close look here. The card on the left has two of each die cut layered together. The one on the right only has one of each die cut. Look how much more dimension there is on the one on the left. It makes such a big impact. That's why I like to layer my die cuts extra, but remember, you don't have to do that. If you don't like as much layer, you can really keep these cards a little more minimal. I like to build that layer. Now, I've done a lot of layering die videos in the past, and I will link up here to the top right so you can check out that playlist for other ideas too. Let's jump into my first technique for today, and this is to use marker to add some color behind your layers. Today, on many of my cards, I'm using the Birch Press Design Kinsley Heart layer plates. These plates are so detailed. You can use them separately or together. I'll be using them together today for a lot of layering in our backgrounds. You can also cut out the hearts, so you have individual hearts from this if you prefer. Now, layering background dies like this do have a higher price point because they are 3 background dies. And that's why I really wanted to show you extra ideas for how to use them. And I'll be using these in another video coming soon. I really like background layering dies because it's very easy. You die cut 3 pieces, glue them together, and you have such detail to your card. All you really need to do is add a die cut sentiment or a focal point image and you're ready to go. But today I'm going to show you how to step it up by putting some color behind. Okay, so let's start with doing this background here. You can see how there's different colors in the little windows on the hearts. Let me show you how I do that. Just bear with me, it'll make sense in a moment. So I have a die cut machine here. This is the Spellbinders Platinum, and I'm taking the backmost die, the die that has the most solid area in the layering. So this one here. We're going to make an impression with this die instead of cutting with it. So I have a piece of white cardstock, and I'm just taping it onto the die. Next, I'm using my embossing mat. This will allow me to make an impression with my die instead of cutting with it. Most die cut machines come with this. And I'm just following the instructions for the sandwich to make an impression with a die instead of cutting. So now, once I take this out, you'll see the pattern impressed into the cardstock. By doing this, I know where to put the color, because see how there's all those little markings? I need to fill in those markings. So I'm just using Copic markers here. You could use whatever coloring medium you want. And I am just filling in those with blues, greens, and purples. With this technique, I encourage you to color outside of the lines. You don't need to stay in the lines, and it's a lot faster, as you can see if you don't. It takes about 5 minutes to fill in the markings. You don't need to worry about staying in the lines because we'll put those other layering die cuts on top, and the colors we're adding here will show through the holes. Now, doing die cut inlay is another way to add color into these patterns, but this is a lot faster to just add the colors with your markers. You could also do an ink blended background here if you want, but this really did not take long at all. So once I have all of those little areas colored in, let me show you a close-up so you can see how I colored inside the markings and outside of the markings. Kind of just did a quick application of color. Takes no time at all. Okay, so now let's put the die cut on top and you'll see how you have the color peeking through all the holes. And now we can add the other layers on top and you get really fun, colorful layered background. Now keep in mind, you don't need to use a layering die set for this. You could use any background die, make an impression, color in those impressed openings, and then put the die cut on top and the color will show through. I just found that it really is impactful when you use these layering dies like these. Now I usually use white die cuts for all this layering, but in this case, I replaced the bottom layering with a light blue cardstock. And then the top two layers are white cardstock. That just adds even more impact to it. I'll show you some more colorful bold ones later. Now that we've done our colorful layered background, the rest of the card is simple. I just glued my layering onto a 4 1/4 by 5.5 inch note card. I added a high die cut that I die cut from an alphabet set, twice from white cardstock and once from an old purple glitter cardstock I had. I layered those together so they'd stand out against the background. And I also added a white heat embossed sentiment strip right across the die cut. This gives a nice focal point, but you still are allowed to see all of that fun layered background. I also added some Trinity stamped Something New pearls here and there in the background. Those are a favorite of mine, and by the way, they're back in stock for those who were asking. Also, that high is from this Altenew bold alphabet die set, which I have used many times over the years in videos. It's a favorite of mine. And the sentiment is from this My Favorite Things Bitty Hugs and Kisses stamp set. I use this one throughout this video. There are a lot of really special sentiments in here, like here's a hug, sending a paper hug, sending love your way, you are my favorite person, a lot of really encouraging, happy sentiments, and I thought they went well with the hearts that I use on a lot of my cards today. So for the rest of the video, that's where my sentiments come from. Now here's another example where I did the same thing. I made an impression with the die, and then I filled in with colors, but this time I kind of did a rainbow going around. So you could do whatever color combinations you like, and you get kind of a different look each time. So I continued to color in all the impressions like I did on my last example. Then I glued the 3 background layer die cuts on top, this time all from white cardstock. I added that to a note card, and then I added a large glitter die cut there, the heart, and 3 sentiment strips on it. I really like to keep my sentiments and the focal point very simple on these so you can see all of the color around and you're not too distracted from that. So in this case, I kind of did a little bit of a rainbow with the hearts. You could do any color scheme you prefer. Now I had so much fun with that, I decided to do a third. This time I did a rainbow all the way around the heart, so there's lots of colors in there. Then for sentiment, I used the Birch Press Big Lingo Hello die. I've used this one before. I wanted to keep that simple on there and just have a little pop of black. Now as I'm looking at it here, I'm thinking I need to add a sentiment strip to it, and you'll see me do that. But first, let's take a closer look at the background. I did add some pearls into the openings too, just to give it a little bit of shine and add more to that layered feel. So here's where I add that sentiment strip. I feel like it makes the sentiment stand out more, but doesn't distract from all the fun colors in the background. Okay, now for another technique for adding color to your layering dies. This is a little different, but it uses the same layering die set. In this case, I'm cutting cardstock to go behind the different areas of the layering dies. So I have the frontmost layering die, the one that would be on the top, and I'm just tracing it onto a scrap of colorful cardstock. This is an excellent technique for using up those tiny little scraps that sometimes we don't want to throw away. After I traced it, I'm cutting around it. Notice I'm cutting outside of it, so it's a little bit bigger. Now I can have this and glue it behind our open hearts, and that will allow color to come through. I will go ahead and make multiple hearts like this. So I just got a rainbow of colors. Any colors a cardstock would work. You could use specialty cardstocks here. I think it'd be fun to have each heart be different, maybe one a glitter cardstock, one a holographic. I just went with colored cardstock for today. So after I trace those hearts, you can see they're not perfect at all, and cut them out very quickly. We can glue them behind our die cut. So this is the first layer die cut, the one with the smallest openings. On the back, I'm putting adhesive around one of the heart areas, gluing our cardstock color that we cut out, trimming off the excess, and then moving on to the next one. So any background die you have, you could cut out different areas of color and put it behind it to allow that color to show through. It's much faster than trying to do a die cut inlay technique, although sometimes doing inlay is really fun. If you're interested in inlay, which I didn't do in this video, I will link to an inlay video here on the top right. Today was all about faster methods for getting that colorful layered die cut look. This method took about 10 minutes, and it's a good one if you have large areas of color you want to do, like the entire heart. Okay, once I'm done with adding the color behind the entire thing, I can add my other layers. First, I thought I would do all the layers in white, but then I decided to make one of the layers a glitter cardstock, like a champagne glitter cardstock from Memory Box. I thought that would be a fun way to step up the background even more. So don't feel like each layer needs to be the same color or be the same kind of cardstock. Specialty cardstocks are fun too. So here's the completed card. I just added it onto a note card. Then I added the high from Altenew, and that's black cardstock, and then the sentiment strip across that. Now this black cardstock that I used for all of my little sentiments today is from Tim Holtz. It's his black alcohol ink matte cardstock. It's my favorite black for sentiments because it's got this kind of matte finish to it and it's super black. It also die cuts really nice. So with this one, it was fun to add those bold pops of color and then the glitter paper too. Okay, another technique for adding some color to your layered die cuts is to do ink blending. In this case, I did some masking along with my ink blending, and I used the new color of Distress ink. So here I have a piece of Gina K Designs Masking Magic, and I also have a Pink and Main rectangle die. And I'm going to cut a rectangle right in the center of this masking paper. This masking paper is cut to 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. I wanted to create a mask so that I could have a rectangle in the center of our background. There are stencils out there that do this, but I thought I'd go ahead and create my own. So I'm starting with my first white die cut and adding the mask to it. Here's a trick for getting them lined up. I'm putting the mask into the corner of my score buddy, just because there's a corner there. You could use your Misty too. I have the sticky side facing up. Then I put the die cut into the corner and press down. Now I know it's lined up and it didn't take any effort at all. Now I'm going to do some ink blending. You could use absolutely any inking you want on here and any inking tool. I decided to use my Waffle Flower Water Media Mat. It's my favorite surface to ink on. My Gina K blending brushes. I really like these new brushes. And Tim Holtz Distress ink because I really wanted to try out the new pink color he has. So this is the bottom die cut layer of the layering background that we're doing. On this layer, I'm putting a heavy amount of ink. I'm using Seedless Preserves, Picked Raspberry, and the new pink color, which is called Kitsch Flamingo. This is such a beautiful pink. That's the one I'm putting down right now. It is the perfect pink. Lila and I were so excited to try it out, and I'll show you a closer look at this new color and all the different products in a video coming soon. But today I just wanted to use it along with Seedless Preserves and Picked Raspberry, and it makes such a beautiful blending combination. Okay, so after I have covered this with a heavy amount of these inks, so dark blending, I'll wipe off the excess ink from the mask, remove the mask, and there we have our first layer with the blending. Now I'll move the mask on to the second layer. So I have a white cardstock die cut, the middle layer here. I'll put the mask on that, and then ink over the opening on it. Now I'll do the same color blending, but this time with just a medium application of color. I'll start with the Seedless Preserves, go to Picked Raspberry, and then go to the new Kitsch Flamingo. Now here's the thing, when you're blending colors, you want them to overlap significantly. The more overlap you have, the better the blending will be and the less time it'll take to do it. So once I have a medium application on that, I'll go ahead and remove the mask and put it on the top and final layer of our layered background. On this layer, I'm going with the same colors, but going super light. So we're building from dark, medium to light as we go up through the layers of the card. It just makes the layering more impactful. Another option for this would have been to glue all the layers together, put the mask down and ink over everything, but I like that I was able to control that the back layer was the darkest and the top layer was the lightest. It really makes a big difference. So now I can glue those layers together and our rectangle will be right in the middle of our layered background. This is a fun way to really kind of change the look of a layered background, add some interest to a blending, and all you needed to do is add a sentiment to it. I decided to use the same rectangle die to cut from a piece of glitter cardstock and glue that to the back, so glitter would be showing through the openings right there in the center of our inking. I then put glue on the back of the entire background and added it to a white note card. Whenever I do this, I like to put my Misty stamping tool on top so something heavy will hold it in place as it dries. So here is how I completed the card. All I did was add a sentiment. I felt like this had enough interest between all of the layered details, the colorful inking, and the glitter cardstock that peeks through. If you don't have layering background dies, you could do this with one layer background dies. So ink up your background in a rectangle, ink up your die cut in a rectangle, and layer them together. So you don't have to have layering dies to try these techniques. By the way, the hello here is from an older My Favorite Things Little Hello die set. And the sentiment is from the My Favorite Things stamp set I showed you earlier. By the way, another thing if you don't have any layering dies, I will link here to a video where I show how you can create the look of layering dies with just regular dies. Okay, now one more using these background layering dies. This time I went bold and colorful, just to remind you, you don't have to use that basic white. In this case, I have a light, medium, and dark, like purplish pink cardstock, and then one glitter cardstock sheet. I die cut the 3 layers and I glued them on top of that glitter cardstock so the glitter would show through. All I had to do was die cut 3 layers and glue everything together, and you already have a dynamite card where you don't need much added to it. It allows you to make a card very quickly. That's why I like to use it for mass production. Here you can see the glitter showing through. Now I wanted to add a bold white die cut, but something that was narrow so it didn't cover up too much, and this one was perfect. I cut it 3 times from white cardstock and glued it together so it would stand out, and added a pearl at the center of each of those flowers. Isn't that cool? I actually made 4 of them to save some extras for a future card. And then I added a simple Big Hug sentiment. Now that Big Hug sentiment is from this Memory Box Big Hugs script die set. It has the shadow, which I did in white, and the words that I did in the black cardstock. The big floral image is from this die set that I purchased from Scrappy Tales, which is a new to me stamp company. It's called the Assorted Leaves die set. I like die sets like this because there's a variety of leaf images and leaves work on a variety of cards. I thought this one was so pretty, nice and large and detailed. Here's the extras where I added the pearls to the center so they're ready to go. Now that I've demonstrated a few techniques using layering background dies, I thought I'd do a few more techniques using regular layering dies. In this case, a layering heart die. But remember, any of these techniques can be done with whatever dies you might have, anything intricate. Now this time I'm using the new Birch Press Kinsley Heart Layering Die Set. I am so crazy about layering heart die sets. I think they work for so many occasions and such detail. Look at how that looks when you layer it up. Well, I thought it'd be fun to add some color behind these. And keep in mind, you don't have to use all 3 layers. You can get a different look by just using 2. This time I'm going to take some scraps and cut them up and then create a pattern that we can die cut from for our layering. To do so, I have some printer paper here, just thin paper, and I'm cutting the pieces to be slightly bigger than our heart die cut. In this case, it's 3 inches by 3 inches, seemed to work just fine. So I have 3 inch by 3 inch squares cut from printer paper. The reason I'm using printer paper is it's thinner and it won't add too much bulk. Now I have 3 inch by 3 inch cardstock pieces and a bunch of different colors here. These were all cut down from scraps in my scrap drawer. I'm taking each of these and cutting them into triangles. The first thing I do is cut one corner to the other corner. Then I put it back in the trimmer and cut one corner to the other corner. And there we have 4 triangles already. But now I'm going to cut them again. So I'm actually cutting 2 at a time because I can do that with this trimmer. I'm holding the 2 triangles together and cutting from the one point to right to the edge. And now I have lots of triangles in that color. And I'll do the same with the rest of the squares. Again, since my trimmer can cut 2 layers at once, I'll save time by holding 2 pieces together here and cutting them down. You can cut or die cut any shapes you want, any sizes you want, it doesn't matter. I thought small triangles would be easy because we can use our trimmer to do that. And I'm doing this with all the different colors. The more colors, the better, I feel. And I will have so many triangles that I can make multiple cards. Now I have my 3 inch by 3 inch piece of printer paper. I covered the top with adhesive, and now I'm laying my triangles in place. And I'm kind of making kind of a burst coming out from that center point. And I'm just not really following any pattern, just putting a variety of colors down, and I even use gold glitter cardstock for some fun. So there you can see how I've kind of created my own pattern paper from some scraps, and now we can die cut these. If you have pattern paper scraps, those would even work great for this too. So now I'll take my heart die, and this is the bottom layer of the layering die set, and I'll die cut this. It die cuts beautifully, and now we have a multicolor die cut that we can put in our layering. I decided only to use the top and bottom layering die cuts. I skipped the middle one, just so more color would show. I love how adding all of those colors underneath was very quick to do and makes this stand out even more. And it's a great way to use up scraps. So here's the final card that I made. It's a mini slimline card. It's about 3.5 inches by 6.25 inches, I believe I made it. And I used a slimline background die from Memory Box to make those pierced hearts. It's actually a die meant for larger cards, but I just cut out the area I needed. I added my layering heart die right to the top center, and then a sentiment strip right across it. I didn't want to cover too much of the colorful background we did inside of that heart. I am really enjoying this mini slimline card size. They're usually about 3.5 by 6 or 6.5 inches. I will link below to my favorite 2 sources for mini slimline envelopes in case you want to try them out too. By the way, you can see I stamped Hugs Enclosed on the flap of that envelope. That is from this Honeybee Hugs Enclosed stamp set. I'm using this on the envelopes throughout this video. I love that large background. That would be fun to stamp on an envelope flap too. Didn't think of it in time to do the video, but I'll try to do that in the future. Let's do another technique where we create a multicolor piece and then die cut from it for our layering. And this time, I just did cardstock strips. I've done so many videos on the fun you can have with cardstock strips, so I had to include it here. So I have a 3-inch by 3-inch copy paper square there, covered with adhesive, and now I'm just putting 1/4-inch strips across it. No rhyme or reason, just cover the area. Once I have it covered, I can use my heart die to die cut from it. This again is the bottom layering die. And check out that multicolor piece that we have. This is a fun technique just to do behind any detailed die cut, but especially with layering dies. So here's the card I did with that heart. I just added a simple sentiment to the center because I didn't want to cover up too much of the color. I added it to a 4.25 by 5.5 inch note card. It's hard to tell, but the note card is a super light pink. And then I did a Lattice background die in white cardstock to put on it just to add a little subtle interest to the background. Here's the die that I used for that. And you can see I used the Happy Mail from that Honeybee stamp set on the matching envelope. So this is an excellent technique for using up those scraps. I love saving them. And remember the piece where I die cut the heart from? I thought the leftover negative space was fun. So I just glued it onto a white note card and then added layered white heart die cuts to the opening where we had cut from. Great way to use up those leftover pieces. Sometimes our leftover trash pieces have a fun look that you can add to a card. I added the Birch Press Sending Love die cut right at the center and scattered a few purple gems for some added sparkle. So this was just a bonus card, but I used the heart layering dies just in white for this one and then put the color around it. Okay, let's do a few more ideas using ink blending. I shared one before, but this time I colored the entire layer die cut to create something colorful with a different look. So this time I'm using the Birch Press Design Petal Heart Layer die set. It's a little bit different than the last heart layering set, and I like that this shows more area of each layer. I'm starting with the bottom layer of the hearts, and I'm applying a pretty generous amount of Gina K ink. Any ink would work. This is Turquoise Sea, which happens to be one of my favorite colors. Once I've covered that, I did put a little blue raspberry towards the bottom. Instead of making the entire heart one color, I thought it'd be fun to have a little variation on it. Now let's go to the middle layer heart. On this one, I'll put a medium amount of the same colors. So again, over the whole thing with turquoise, and then just along the bottom there with a little bit of blue raspberry. Now you could leave the top heart white so that it pops, but I thought I'd put a really light amount of the same colors on it. You could also change up the colors between the layers, but for this one, I wanted to stick with just the teals and blues. And check out that beautiful layering that you get. It doesn't take long to ink these up either. It's pretty forgiving, and you can create something colorful quickly. So here is the card I made from that. So this is a 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 note card. On the back of the heart, I put some glitter cardstock. So some silver glitter cardstock would show through the openings. On the background, I added Studio Katia Icy Sparkle Crystals, and those have like a little bit of iridescent glitter in them, or clear glitter in them. And I put them in the pattern that was created using this background die. This is the Trinity Stamps Quilted Cover Die. It was on my favorites list. There's actually a stencil you can use along with it, but instead I put the little crystal right in the meeting points of all the stitch lines. Here's another that I did with ink blending, but in this case, each layer of the heart I did a different color. So the bottom layer is Gina K Wild Wisteria. I made it darker towards the bottom and lighter towards the top. The middle layer is Hot Mama ink from Simon Says Stamp, and the top layer as Passionate Pink from Gina K Designs. So you can do each layer a different color if you want, and the rest of the card was assembled the same way as our last one. By the way, I like the results when I ink each layer separately instead of gluing the 3 white layers together and then inking the whole thing. I feel like this gives a bit more variation, better coverage. Definitely worth it to do the 3 layers inked separately, then glue them together. In this case, I use pinks, oranges, and yellows. Okay, next up I have 2 really quick cards for you, great for using up scraps. These aren't actually layering dies. These are intricate dies that also include the shadow die. So if you have any dies like that, even word dies, where there's a shadow die included, you can do this technique. These are the Brutus Monroe lace border dies. When I saw these, I had to get them because they're nice and big and they're long. They're about 8 1/2 inches long, so they cover a slimline or regular card with no problem. Really like the detail in them. And the shadow dies are included for them. So I thought it would be fun to apply this multicolor technique with this. So I have a piece of copy paper. This is actually grid paper or graph paper, but you could use copy paper. And an Altenew double-sided adhesive sheet. I really like these adhesive sheets for die cutting. It is a great adhesive. So I'm putting my thin graph paper, or you could use printer paper, onto the one side of the double-sided adhesive, trim off the excess. So basically, we have a piece of thin paper with adhesive on it. Okay, so now I'm going to peel back the release paper some from this to expose the adhesive. I once again have a bunch of thin, colorful scraps. These don't have to be the same width. I just really quickly cut some. I had some left over from before. And I have a mix of colors. You could do a rainbow if you want. Doesn't matter. Even specialty papers would work here. I'm just putting them up against each other right into that adhesive. You could have used any adhesive here, but this is super fast, and I have a lot more left over to make additional cards. Once I have a border made of a bunch of different scraps, I trimmed it out, and then I used one of the shadow dies from that Brutus Monroe set to cut this piece here. Looks kind of funny at this point, but when I add on the white detailed die cut on top, check it out. You can see the color showing through. So the shadow die was used to cut the colorful piece. Then the intricate die, I used white cardstock and glued on top. Now this is again a mini slimline card, so it's about 3 1/2 by 6 1/4, I think is what this one is. And then I put a sentiment strip right across the center and added some pearls. Here's one that I did with blues. These are quick to do, and I plan to make a few more. You could put any sentiment that you want to on there, and this is a great chance to use some of your colorful pearls to add to the pattern. So keep in mind, a lot of the techniques I did today can be used with any dies where it simply has a shadow die included. All right, there you have lots of ways to add color to your layered die cutting. I really enjoy die cutting and assembling things. I find it very therapeutic, and I hope you'll give some of these ideas a try. If you're interested in the particular products I use, I do have them linked below in my YouTube description. But be sure to go over to my blog. I'll link it at the end here on the top right because there's a lot more information there, including photos of all the cards. In the middle are a couple other die cut layering technique videos that you might like. Thanks for watching. Please give this a thumbs up if you liked it so YouTube knows you want to see more from me. Have a wonderful day and we'll see you soon.